Welcome back to Green Technology, where raw hydraulic power, heavy timber, dangerous terrain, and modern forestry machines turn brutal jobs into controlled force. No chainsaw, no hesitation, just pure hydraulic energy ripping through roots and soil. Watch that Hyundai excavator pull a mature tree out of the ground like it is nothing more than a weed. That is control, that is force, and that is exactly the kind of machine power worth watching. That is not just mud, that is a full swamp. Honestly, it does not even look like he should move an inch through it, but the machine keeps fighting forward. In places like this, traction is not just useful, it is the whole job. She cuts a flawless Humboldt face with a steady hand and perfect angle. That kind of clean cut does not come from luck. It comes from thousands of trees, years of practice, and the confidence to let the saw do exactly what it needs to do. Well, getting the rest of that tree down to the ground is going to be the hard part. Once a tree hangs up or breaks in the wrong place, the job becomes slower, riskier, and much less predictable. That 1,974 Kenworth with a 12V71 growling under the hood is old-school timber power at its best. Heavy iron, a load full of wood, and a driver who understands that momentum is not something to play with. On a rig like that, weight is always in charge. That Caterpillar 518 does not flinch. It grabs that huge pine like it is just another piece of lunch. That log looks easily more than 3 feet thick, big enough to frame a cabin, but to the 518, it is just another day of forest domination. This is not simple pulling. This is taming the woods one massive trunk at a time. Log handling becomes a lot cleaner with the Clearman HD 852. This machine shows off lifting, moving, and butt-reducing heads, working together with impressive speed. It is an American-made solution for professional log processing, built for high-output operations where every second matters. A ladder and a chainsaw is a classic disaster combination. You do not need a math degree to see where this is going. Bad footing, cutting force, and falling limbs are not a good mix. One slip and it is over, but somehow they make it look like a Sunday drive. That is what skill does. It hides the risk until you remember how little room there really is for error. Trees can help stabilize soil on hillsides, but along cliffs, they can sometimes do the opposite. Their roots can break rock apart over time, weakening the edge until the whole structure becomes dangerous. Every timber load you see on the highway represents a driver who survived roads like this. Mud, grades, loose edges, tight turns, and heavy weight turn logging transport into a high-stakes game every single day. The Timber Pro TL755D is a West Coast beast. Watch it take on a felled tree over 27 inches wide while staying impressively stable on steep terrain. That kind of control on a slope is exactly why machines like this exist. That IH 288 is a classic beauty, but seeing that chain stretch tight without a proper dampener makes me a little nervous for the glass. Old machines have charm, but tension chains do not forgive bad angles. The way that tree trunk folds metal like paper is honestly hard to watch. It is a simple reminder that timber does not care how strong something looks. The Ponsse Buffalo rolls through the forest like a tank, gripping pine logs and loading them with clean hydraulic movement. Heavy loads, no drama, and modern forestry running at full speed. This is what happens when a fully loaded logging truck takes a shortcut no truck should ever take. One slide, one lean, and suddenly the whole forest gets a front row seat to a very expensive mistake. Watch a fearless logger face a towering giant. Precision and skill turn every cut into controlled craftsmanship. This is not just tree felling, it is technique in motion. Could you handle a tree this size? Drop your thoughts below. Prepare yourself for a serious rush. These lumberjacks take on giant trees with raw courage and sharp focus. But doing it without proper safety equipment pushes the risk too far. Every cut becomes a dangerous dance with gravity, balance, and timing. This reckless tree cutting method is hard to believe. No real safety plan, too much chaos, and one wrong move away from disaster. A smarter, safer approach is not optional in a job like this. What do you think? Leave your thoughts below. Some people say cutting the larger trees can help maintain forest health. That is a viewpoint not everyone thinks about. In managed forestry, selective removal can create space, light, and resources for younger growth. What is your take on it? After a storm, uprooted and broken trees can create serious hazards. While working on one especially complicated tree, the cut became pinched, holding tension inside the trunk. He judged the pressure, kept control, and fortunately, the collapsed root plate absorbed much of the force. That could have gone much worse. There is no wasted movement here. This processor is being fed non-stop, chewing through birch like an animal. At around 22 minutes for every heavy load, every grab matters, and that operator is clearly running in full production mode today. Up in the tree, every movement matters. Height changes the whole job. A small mistake on the ground can be corrected. A small mistake above ground can become serious very quickly. I did not realize they called themselves tree dicks, but they definitely lived up to the name today. At least they were honest about the mess they created. Sometimes the only thing worse than a bad tree job is pretending it was under control. The John Deere 1270D paired with a LogMax 6000 is a real force in the forest. One grab, one cut, and an entire tree is felled, delimbed, and bucked in seconds. Power, control, accuracy, and smooth operation all work together to turn heavy timber into pure efficiency. Honestly, this looks like Walter White gave up the crystal business and tried tree service instead. Unfortunately, things did not seem to go much better here. A big saw is heavy to carry all day, but if you understand your angles like this guy does, the weight becomes part of the job. Power is useful, but knowing where and how to cut is what makes the difference. At some point, you cannot even call this an accident. When the stump cut is pointing straight toward the neighbor's living room, that is not bad luck. That is just wild decision-making. This is beaver cut chaos. The chainsaw bites deep, but there does not seem to be much of a plan. At that point, all you can do is hope gravity chooses the right direction, and that is never a real strategy.
Does anyone
Does anyone else feel like this Eco SS disc mulcher handles small trees like grass? The CAT 299DX-HP pushes in, the disc bites hard, and suddenly a difficult clearing job looks almost too easy. But power like this still demands distance, awareness, and proper safety gear. That cut clearly did not go exactly as planned. One small mistake slipped in, and suddenly this tree felling job became much more tense than the peaceful forest background made it seem. This one does not move the way you expect at all. You think it is going to shoot through the forest, then everything changes right in front of you. Watch it there, and suddenly the whole situation turns into a serious warning about how unpredictable timber can be. That is the reality of forestry technology. Machines bring power, speed, and control, but trees, mud, cables, slopes, and gravity still make the rules. Whether it is a Hyundai excavator tearing out roots, a Caterpillar skidder dragging giant pine, a Ponsse Buffalo loading timber, or a disc mulcher